Matthew Hopkins was the son of a Puritan preacher, and his name has gone down in history as one of the leading factors for the growth of witchcraft accusations and convictions in England during the 17th century. Hopkins is believed to have been a former lawyer who used his legal training to style himself as a professional witch hunter and gave himself the title of Witchfinder General, although this title was never recognised by the government at this time. The Earl of Warwick was an ardent Puritan and was appointed Justice of the Peace for Essex and East Anglia. Not only was he responsible for keeping law and order, but also for discovering witches and evildoers within the district, and it was Warwick that appointed Matthew Hopkins. Largely active in East Anglia during his short career, it is estimated that Hopkins was responsible for the arrest and interrogation of up to 300 supposed witches and the execution of 112 convicted witches. It can be argued that Hopkins' Puritan zeal helped grow his reputation as a witchfinder, as Puritans were known for preaching and an unflinching devotion to what they saw as a battle for good over the work of the devil. As the Witchfinder General, Hopkins was paid incredibly well for the time, securing anything up to £23 for the execution by hanging of every convicted witch, roughly around a month's wage for the average worker during this period. Hopkins used techniques during interrogation such as sleep deprivation, whereby the accused would be continually questioned and kept awake, sometimes for days on end, until out of desperation the accused may confess to being a witch. Without a confession, a witch could not be convicted or punished. Therefore, confessions formed an important part of Hopkins' role, and his methods of interrogation were designed to deliver a confession. During the interrogation, Hopkins would also have his men search the accused's body for a mark known as a witch's teat that was believed to be used to feed blood to their familiar. A witch's familiar was an animal or insect that would do the work of the devil on the witch's behalf. In order for Hopkins to continually have work, he ensured that a full confession included the accused giving up the names of other witches that were known to them, so that he could continue what he believed was the Lord's work on earth. Matthew Hopkins was most active during the 1640s, and records show that during his career witch hysteria was at its peak, with more convictions and executions than ever before, clearly showing the dramatic effect that Hopkins had in growing witch hysteria during this period. On the 12th of August 1647, Matthew Hopkins died of tuberculosis at his home in Manningtree, and in the years that followed, accusations of witchcraft dramatically declined. Historians believe that it was the influence of Hopkins that was driving the witch hysteria of the period, and as the century continued, attitudes to witches changed greatly. It was not until the Witchcraft Act of 1736 that the crime of witchcraft was officially decriminalised under King George II. This was due to the shift in attitudes and the belief that witches were tricksters rather than brides of Satan. The new Act of Parliament greatly diminished penalties for witchcraft, from capital punishment to prison sentences and fines. During the 17th century, the role of women was largely domestic, and all women were viewed as the property of men, firstly to their father and then to their husband after they were married. If a woman were not to follow this traditional pattern, they were seen as a social misfit or an outcast and were treated with suspicion and contempt. It was women such as this who were most likely to be accused of witchcraft, as they lived alone and were shunned by society. Women became much more likely targets for accusations of witchcraft if they were unmarried or widowed, or if they were disabled or particularly vulnerable, and statistics show that 90% of all witchcraft accusations were made against women. With access to doctors limited to the wealthy at this time, the lower classes came to rely on wise women. These were women who lived among the local community, who were able to aid with childbirth or had knowledge of natural medicines for a wide range of ailments. With scientific knowledge of medicine largely unknown, natural remedies were viewed as magical, and the way they worked was not fully understood, which caused wise women to be associated with and accused of witchcraft. The 17th century witnessed a great shift in thinking, which became known as the Enlightenment. This change was driven by a scientific approach to explain natural phenomenon rather than to accept religious or superstitious explanations. This new enlightened thinking helped lead to a decrease in accusations of witchcraft. In 1660, the Royal Society was founded to pursue scientific theories and discovery. With a royal charter that was awarded by Charles II, the Royal Society now had official support, and older superstitions and religious ideas slowly fell further out of favour among the population, as the monarchy publicly backed the scientific approach to learning. As rational thought and scientific explanation began to grow, witchcraft accusations dwindled, and the final execution for witchcraft occurred in 1716, when Mary Hicks and her 9-year-old daughter Elizabeth were accused of removing their stockings to conjure a rainstorm. The history of witchcraft shows us that what humankind did not understand was to be feared, and Crime and Punishment evolved to show how attitudes changed as the natural world was further understood.